If you don't mind. Dr. Botwin, one thing that I found really interesting, The Guardian just did a piece profiling people around the world who say that even once these mandates are lifted, which of course we're now learning, that they still want to keep wearing masks. And one woman in particular I thought was really interesting. This is a woman in San Francisco, and she said that Zoom has made her insecurities about her looks even worse. I want to read you what she said. She said, "I just stare at that little box with my face in it and pick apart my appearance. My double chin seems 6 times longer. My eye bags are too deep of purple. I'm 10,000% plan on wearing a mask for the foreseeable future. After a full day of worrying and not being able to focus on my actual job, it just feels nice to blend in." Doctor, why are you seeing some people really find that there's more emotional freedom in wearing masks?
It's really very sad, actually, because I think there's so many people who really struggle with body image issues. They struggle with feelings of being out there, and people are so used to covering up some of these insecurities that I think in a way their mask makes them feel more protected, not just from the virus, but from having people look at them and judge them, even though most people aren't going to be doing that. If you're somebody that's struggling with, like this woman is saying, with body image issues, she can keep her mask on, and then she doesn't have to worry about what people are going to think or what people are going to say.
And I want to go ahead and turn over to Aaron for a minute, but before we let you go, Dr. John, thanks. I know you have more work to do on your next story, so we're going to let Dr. John leave for this segment. Aaron?
Yeah, Dr. Botwin, we focus so much on, trying to figure out when and whether we need to wear a mask, but this has been a year that we've been in this pandemic, more than a year now. And there have been a lot of different tentacles in terms of how this has impacted people's lives and the way that we're handling it or not handling it so well these days. What are some of the bigger issues that you've identified people are having to deal with in focusing on this time, especially emerging from the pandemic?
This is a time of transition. A lot of people talk about pandemic PTSD, and I think what's happening is we're starting to move out of this pandemic, but now all of the feelings that we've been grappling with since last March, in some ways the feelings are hitting us more now. I think one of the biggest things that I'm thinking, especially as we just heard the latest CDC guidelines, is how do we trust that if we take off this mask that for many of us makes us feel protected, how do I know that that's actually going to be okay? I don't think it's something that one day you can just take off your mask and say, we're good, we're safe now. I think we need to see over time that removing some of these restrictions is not going to get people sick again, and to just know that the COVID numbers are really going down. A lot of this stuff we hear about it on the news, but we can't actually see it. It's not all within our immediate lives. So that's one of the things that I've been thinking about. And even as I was just listening to the report, I could feel myself getting a little bit anxious when I think about my kid not having to wear a mask at school anymore. I don't want him to have to need a mask, but in a way, I feel like it feels safer. So I really just want to say this is not something that we're going to get used to overnight. And I think people have to do what makes them feel comfortable. It's a process. It's something that everybody's going to have a different reaction to. So I think you really have to do what makes you feel most comfortable, and don't worry about what anybody else thinks.
It's interesting because you talk about this issue of trust, and that's something we've seen when it comes to vaccine hesitancy. It's something when it comes to people letting go of their masks. And, I've noticed even in my own personal circles, I have some friends, who almost they've been vaccinated, they're wearing their masks, they've done all the right things, but it's almost as if they don't kind of want to get to the end of this just yet. I mean, who almost enjoy the process of having these regulations and rules, and it seems like almost there's no end in sight for them. Vaccinating doesn't end it, the mask doesn't end it. And so how do you build that trust that it is okay to take that next step and loosen restrictions as long as we're keeping each other safe and healthy?
I think the most important thing is that we look at this as a process, that we sort of go step by step. We think about how we're feeling in the situation. And I would say to people, if you're vaccinated, if you're with a group of people and you're not sure if somebody in that group is vaccinated, it's really okay to keep your mask on. I think the other thing that, people are talking about, people got used to being in their homes, being away from other people face to face. And a lot of people, separate from the pandemic, we all have things that have happened. We all, to some extent, have been traumatized by this experience. And I think a lot of people have issues with trust. So I feel like you just really have to do what makes you feel comfortable. And for some people, it'll be very easy to transition and just say, you know what, I'm not going to wear my mask now because they said I don't need it. There's going to be other people that are going to say, I'm not ready. And then there's going to be other people like the woman that you're talking about in the article who have issues with vulnerability. There's people who feel safer wearing a mask because they're afraid of getting discriminated against. I know people who are dealing with gender issues and are dealing with transgender issues, and they say to me, I'm going to keep my mask on because it's easier for me to pass as a guy. I don't have to worry about getting ridiculed or being told I can't go in the boys' bathroom because they can't see my face.
Wow, yeah.